This is RWSFM 103.3.
I'm Mike Potter. I present the Top 20 Countdown show on a Tuesday evening from 6 till 8 and Goldmine after that from 8 till 10. Top 20 Countdown show is great fun. It's different every week. We present 2 different years, the charts of those particular years. This week we're doing 1972 and 1981, and I pick probably about a dozen, sometimes a bit more, songs from that particular year's chart. Sadly, because we don't have time for any more, because although there's 30 songs, there just isn't the time in an hour to play them all. And Goldmine is 2 hours of oldies, which again I make up as I go along, drop in a few quizzes, great fun. As far as enjoying radio and why I do it, I think everybody feels differently, but for me it's such a buzz. It's just such fun. I think if you're not enjoying it, you can't do it. You have to go up in the studio, have a lot of fun doing the show, because that's what comes over to the listener. If you're sitting bored, then the listener's bored. If I'm sitting there having fun, hopefully they're having fun. I have this self-belief that everything I say is hilarious, and that all my listeners are sitting there in hysterics. I'm sure that's true. I've always thought that's true, because I'm a naturally witty guy, and so if I say something funny, the listener always appreciates and enjoys it. And thankfully, modesty prevents me from obviously saying anything conceited, because that would be inappropriate. So there we go. That's me. That's why I do radio. It's just fun. It's blooming good fun. And I think at the end of the show, when you finish and you come off air and you've got all the sweat dripping off you, and you've got all the women screaming outside with autograph books, you just think, well, I'm doing good service for the public, really. Yeah. How did I get into radio? Initially, I used to work from home. I had a summer house in my back garden. I used to work from there, and I always had a radio on. And I remember listening to some jock and thinking, do you know, I could do that. I could do that. I could sit there and waffle and play music. Let's face it, most of us could. But I reckoned I could do it. And I remember there was an advert on that radio station, it was a local station, for volunteers to work at the hospital radio station, as it was in those days. And so I thought, I'll do that. And they wanted you to help out with the programme and go and meet the patients, take requests. So I applied, got the job, and within a few weeks I had my own show. But I think that's probably because I was unbearable. The lovely old chap that had a show that I worked with to start off with, I think he just got fed up with me, and he said to the boss, we're going to take this young whippersnapper out and give him a show, because I can't stand him anymore. So I did that, and then I realised actually I quite liked it. I really, really loved it actually, and I wanted to do it professionally. So I got hold of one of the presenters, funny enough, on that radio station, and said, I want to get into proper radio, how do I do it? And he said, send me a demo tape. So I did. And about a week later he said, are you serious? And I said, yeah, that was the best I've got. And he said, yeah, okay, perhaps you might want to consider a career, being a milkman or something. And anyway, he coached me, and over the weeks and months and decades and lifetime really, I eventually got something that was half decent, and he presented to his boss, who again said, is he serious? But anyway, so I did. I got into professional radio and did that for some years during the 90s, and absolutely loved it. And then when that station was sold off, sadly, that was the end of my radio career, and then there was a bit of a hiatus. I'm running out of song. Never quite made it to number 1. It's David Cassidy. So there were a few years in the wilderness, I have to say. It was a sad time for me. It was a hard time. I took a lot of drink, a lot of drugs, and a lot of women. No, I didn't do any of those. But I did get back into the radio, probably about 5 years ago, 5, 6, 7, I don't know. Who cares? Nobody's counting. Mainly because my son, he was a great fan, obviously, as you'd expect. He said, Dad, why don't you get back in the radio? No, he didn't say that. I don't know why he keeps making these things up. He fancied to go on radio himself. And he said, but I haven't got the guts to do it myself. Will you do it with me, Dad? So I said, yeah, all right. So we came and had an interview with the manager here, Julie. And she said, what do you want? And I said, well, I don't, it's him. And he said, I want to get on the radio. And she said, are you serious? This is a family thing, I don't know why. And so anyway, once they finished laughing, they realised we were serious. They said, all right then, because we're a bit desperate, a bit short-staffed, we'll have you. Whereupon my son decided he would get married and go on honeymoon and all this kind of nonsense. And he's still married, fun enough. And so I got numbered to do it on my own. So now I just have to come here and do my show without him. It's very difficult. They're hard times for me. But I survive. You know, it's I'm sorry. Can you stop the camera? I've been doing radio probably for, I don't know, it's 10, 15, 20, 100 years, something like that. Actually, probably 10 years to start off with, and then there was a break. I've been doing this now for 5 years, amazingly, but I still don't have my gold watch. That can't be long now, obviously, you know, long service award. Because I'm probably one of the longest people. No, I'm not actually. We've got people here who've been doing it since about the 1940s, I think. Well, funnily enough, when I was doing commercial radio in the 90s, there were more computers, but they were only just starting. And one of the stations I worked for had a touchscreen, but that was state of the art in those days, and that was great. We now have the internet, which we never used before, so if we're desperate for a song, we can actually get it on the internet and play it. Because some of the websites that stream music, it's such good quality, we can play it. That never happened before. We didn't really even have the internet to any great extent. The equipment is probably very similar. We've got a desk with lots of faders. We've got CD players, as we did, but we've got computer screens all over the place, which we use for news, Facebook, websites, as well as the playout system that we use, computerized playout system. So, although it's similar, actually it's probably better. I think what I like about working at RWS is the fact that I do what I want. Well, obviously, the Top 20 Countdown show, obviously I play the music from those particular years, and obviously there's a discipline there. And my producer, Karen Spriggs, prints out all the songs. I mean, she's amazing. She does an amazing job. Just prints out all the songs for that particular chart, and I then choose the ones that I think are the most appropriate. But things like Goldmine and most of the other shows, the presenters just make them up as they go along. They play what they want. And I think all of us are sensible enough and mature enough to make sure that what we play is appropriate for the station. Whereas with commercial radio, you have absolutely no choice what's played. Unless it's a request show, but they don't do that many of them. They just play what comes next. They get no choice whatsoever. And I think that's what makes this so enjoyable. It's so much fun. If I'm doing a 60s and 70s show, which Goldmine predominantly is, I look through the list of 60s and 70s songs. Oh, I like that. I haven't played that for a while. Yeah, I played that one. Great. Love it. All right, that's my lot. Thank you so much for your company. It's been fun. Should we do it again soon? All right, you take care. Ta-da.